This is the first of a 5-part tutorial in which we will create a database-driven application and explore some of the productivity tools provided by Visual Studio on the foundations of Windows Forms development. In this first part, we create a Windows Forms project and explore the basics of Windows Form design and implementation. Let's get started. Create a new Windows Forms project and name it Objectville Contact Directory. Close the default Windows form created by Visual Studio and let's take a look at the project created. The Properties folder contains the assembly information, resources, and settings. The assembly.info.cs file defines various settings of the assembly such as title and versioning information. The resource file, resources.resx, provides access to resources used in the project such as text, images, sound, files, and others. The settings.settings file provides for the ability to store configuration properties of any type, including database connection strings. In the reference folders, you'll find a list of assemblies referenced by default by a Windows Forms project. app.config is the main configuration file of the application and it is an XML file. In terms of code, Visual Studio has created a program class, which houses the main entry point of the application. Program is a static class that contains the static main method, which displays the starting form of the application. Besides the program class, Visual Studio has created a form as well, representing the main or the first window of the application. Open the form and explore the project elements that make up the form. The form can be displayed in the designer view or in the code view. The designer view is the default view. Separate the two views to allow yourself simultaneous access to both of them. The code itself is defined by a C# class named Form1, which extends the .NET Form class. The code is split into two files using partial classes. Partial classes are a mechanism that allows the definition of a class to span multiple files. The secondary form code file has the suffix designer.cs and can be accessed by expanding the form file. The primary code file will house developer-defined code, while the designer file is reserved for code generated by Visual Studio. In the designer file, notice the initialize components, which is called from the constructor of the form and is responsible for creating all the components present on the form and for initializing their properties, as well as those of the form itself. Let's rename the form to something more meaningful, such as Objectville Directory Form. By convention, all forms should end in the suffix form. Both the file and the class defined by the file should be renamed. Although it is possible for the file name to be different than the class name, by convention, for simplicity, they are usually the same. Upon renaming the file, Visual Studio asks whether we would like to rename the class as well, which gets renamed with both the main code as well as the secondary one. Let's change some of the common properties of the form. Change the title of the form to Objectville Contact Directory and change the start position property to center screen. Notice how the initialize component changes while the properties are being changed in the properties window. Change the text property of the form to Objectville Contact Directory. Note how initialize components has changed. Change the size of the form. And notice again how the client size property has changed. Change the start position property to center screen. And run the application to verify the look as well as the position and size of the form. We will now add a control to the form and see how the application responds when the user interacts with it. Bring up the toolbox window if you do not have it displayed already. Locate the picture box control and drag and drop it on the form. Using the Smart tag, located in the top right corner of the control, choose an image to be displayed by the picture box. Our resource file is currently empty, and so we will need to import an image and change the size mode to zoom. Position the control accordingly and inspect the designer form file to see the changes generated there by Visual Studio. The picture box was added as a field variable in the form class, and it will thus be available to all the methods defined in the class. The initialize components method was augmented with code to create and initialize the picture box control. The properties window allows us to rename controls by setting the name property of the control, which in turn changes the name of the field variable that corresponds to it. Rename the picture box to _img logo. Note how the field variable name has changed throughout the form. Also note that the image file was added in the resource folder and is now part of the resource file located under properties. Let's add some simple functionality to the form. When the user clicks on the logo image, we would like to display a simple message with about information that shows the name of the application and the author. Code is linked with the control via properties window, specifically through the events view of the properties window. Select the events view, select the click event handler, and provide the name of the event handler on show about box. The event handler is added to the primary code file of the form. Use the message box class to display the name of the application followed by your name. The object will paper company contact directory 1.0 /n for going to the next line, written by name. Second primary is the title of the message. Run your application and click on the logo. How does the control know how to call onShowAboutBox method when the user clicks on it? Let's arrange the window so we can see both the designer file as well as the primary form code file side by side. When we enter the onShowAboutBox event name, Visual Studio added line 44, which connects the click event of the _img logo object, the picture box, with the onShowAbout box method of the form itself. This one like connects the control with the method to be called when the event occurs. This connection is established when the form is created, part of the form's construction. With this link established, whenever a click event occurs in the picture box control, it will call the event handler method. It is important to understand this relationship to troubleshoot instances when controls and methods are not correctly linked. This concludes part 1 of the Objectville Paper Company database-driven application development demo. In part 2, we will create and design the database of contacts that the application works with. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Come back again soon, and in the meantime, learn purpose.